I'm also working on putting out my vampire novel. I guess that's news. Nobody knows about that yet.
Oh, okay. I was
Um,
gonna say my ears perked up. Speaking of Dracula.
so yeah, it's not a Dracula style vampire story, uh,
Okay.
but I
And
wrote it.
nobody sparkles, right?
Nobody sparkles. No, no.
Good.
It gets very dark, but it uses a couple of different types of vampire tropes. It's not just. See, Anne Rice had a big influence on me when I was young, and so it's not just Anne Rice style vampires, although there is a little bit of that. There's also the Nosferatu style vampires in there as well, and the mindless, blood drinking beasts that are called vampires because what else are you going to call them?
Sure.
But they're not the same thing. They're not the same, and I might as well tell you more.
Yeah, please do.
The project is called Vampires in Madrid, and or Vampires of Madrid. I always forget what preposition I use, but it asks the question: why aren't there very many stories about vampires in Madrid? What stops the vampires from being in Madrid? You've got stories about vampires in Paris, Vienna, Rome, New
Sure.
Orleans, New York City, Boston. You've got vampires all over the world.
Yeah. Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that I was not able to find very many that even touch Spain. I was living in Spain when I asked this question, so it kind of
Right.
makes
Fair question to ask.
yeah. There's a couple of the Anne Rice characters are Spanish, but the stories aren't Spanish and don't take place in Spain. They don't the stories are not set in Madrid. They're all set in the vampires primarily in Paris and New Orleans in her books. Um, so I just thought, there must be a reason. So
Now,
that I sought to answer that.
yes, and I was just gonna say, would I be a little bit off um, out of my realm here if I were to ask you what was the answer you came up with, or is that the entire? Or that just is that what the story is? Is the answer?
It's integral to the story, and I
Okay.
couldn't tell you now. But what I can tell you is, again, mixing the genres. It's part that, and it's also part romantic fantasy with time travel elements in it.
Oh, okay.
And in a way, the two stories merge.
Okay.
And honestly, it's the story of my experience in Spain. I lived there for most of 9 months with my partner, and that is where she got diagnosed with cancer. And just a couple of weeks after we left Spain, she died. Um, that experience, the entire experience, the good, the bad, is all in that book. So I'm a little afraid to start because I know I was in a dark place when I wrote it.
Yeah.
And I felt at the time that it was probably the darkest thing I've ever written. And I'm going to have to go and find out for sure because I can't just say, here it is. I have to go
Right.
through and make sure everything in it is right. I have to
No.
do revision. I have to do, if I'm going to
Okay.
self publish this, I'll have to do the layout, and everything is just going to be me again, diving right back into it.
Yeah. Do you think that might help you to separate yourself a little bit emotionally from that if you do end up doing it through your dark fluidity? Uh, I don't know if I'd call that an imprint, but your publishing line.
Yeah.
Uh, do you think that would actually help you a little bit more emotionally because you're doing a lot more of the technical stuff if you decide to do it that way and all the layout and everything, or do you think that would just be something you'd be like, all right, I'm done to give it to somebody else to do?
I don't know that it can help me emotionally anymore in that way because I think that kind of emotional work I've done. We're talking about something that happened a little over 3 years ago.
Right. Not that long ago. Yeah.
Not that long ago, and honestly, it's not completely done. You know, she wrote a book herself, and it is just about to come out.
Right.
It's not.
Very busy.
Yeah. It's called. the Disney Animation Renaissance. It's basically the history of the Disney Animation Studio in Orlando.
Okay.
And I got copies of that in the mail this week, or
Oh, that's
about a week ago. And
bittersweet.
yeah, you know, I cried. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that reaction. So, you know, obviously the emotions are still there. But I think because writing is the way I've always dealt with everything,
Yeah.
I think I could go into the story again and, you know, make sure it's right and clean it up. Not to do more emotional work, but because I've already done enough emotional work to get in there. And either I'm right or I'm wrong. You know, it could be that I'm you know, in tears every night again, and that won't be fun or easy. But you know, I'm still going to do it because, you know, what choice do I have? I don't have a choice. I told you that before.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
compulsion.